everybody. ASMR, FTB here, back with another Magic the Gathering video. And as you can see, we have our special guest, Krieger, here, who just decided to lay down in this spot. But yeah, I wanted to make a video. I got a comment recently saying that a viewer would like to see gameplay, which I am glad to say I got my card hoarder. Well, first of all, if I'm ever going to make gameplay footage, it would either be in Magic the Gathering Arena or Magic the Gathering Online. I don't play Arena much anymore, and I don't have much of a collection there. But I did get my card hoarders loan account back up and running. So I am planning on, in the very near future, recording some gameplay footage of playing Magic the Gathering Online, MTGO. So I am happy that we'll be able to get those videos back on the channel. And then in other news, I played Modern tonight, and I took a version of Burn that I saw Andrea Mengucci playing. Coincidentally, he uploaded a video today of him playing Burn, so I took it as a sign that if I was feeling like playing Burn, should. So I took his list, which is very, basically it's a normal Boros Burn list. Just there's no Rift Bolt, and 3 copies of Skullcrack, 3 copies of Lightning Helix, and 3 copies of a very interesting include, but it makes sense for the metagame, but not necessarily for my local game store. But it's 3 copies of... We've probably already passed it. My brain is kind of on autopilot right now. But 3 copies of Arc Trail. So Arc Trail is specifically in the deck to target the red-white, the Boros energy matchup. It's a great way to get 2 damage in on your opponent while also killing one of their 1 toughness creatures. So it's 3 copies of, and 3 copies of Searing Blaze. So 3 Lightning Helix, 3 Arc Trail, 3 Searing Blaze, and 3 Skullcracks. And then it's your typical 4 of Boros Charm, 4 of Lightning Bolt, Bolt Wave, Lava Spike, and then 4 of, obviously, Goblin Guide, Monastery Swift Spear. And then the lands are kind of painful. The lands are 4 Barbarian Ring, 4 Sunbaked Canyon, and then it's like 8 fetch lands, Arid Mesas, and, in my case, Wooded Foothills and Scalding Tarns. 2 Sacred Foundry, 2 Mountain, and 1 Elegant Parlor. So, game 1, I went up against, Eldrazi Ramp, and I think I lost game 1 because, game match 1 is against Eldrazi Ramp. I lost, and I'm pretty sure I lost actually I know I lost game 1. I got him down to 1 health, but he was able to get Emrakul onto the battlefield, and he was able to swing and beat me, but he was at 1 health. So I know that I lost because turn 1 I had Elegant Parlor, turn 2. Turn 1 was just Mountain, Goblin Guide, and then turn 2 was like Burn Spell, Elegant Parlor, whatever, and I think I could have played 2 or whatever, but the Elegant Parlor kind of like threw, or maybe I put out a Swift Spear, I can't remember, but the land entering tapped cost me the game. I beat him. I think one game got kind of close, but the other one I did really well. I beat him pretty handedly. That was against a player who I'm friends with, a guy I see there every week, and I really like. He's a good guy. He's very kind, and he's a great Magic player. So beating him felt good, but it's Burn, so it's not that I'm a skillful player. I had a good matchup. I don't think Eldrazi ramp really, and obviously I think Burn. I don't think a lot of people have their sideboards at this time really built for Burn. So I think I had an advantage both in the matchup and overall. So I beat him. I don't think there was anything particularly notable about the other games. Game 3, I had like Monastery, Swift Spear, a land, and then like 2 Bolt Waves and 2 Lava Spikes. Or like maybe 2 Bolt Waves, a Lava Spike, and a Lightning Bolt or something like that. So it was like an incredible hand. So I was bound to win that game. Match 2 was against another player who I've played before. He's nice enough. He's been. I think I've described him before. He kind of gives off a vibe that I don't know. He gives off a vibe that I think he thinks he's not necessarily better than you at life, but like I don't know. He gives off a vibe that he doesn't like you very much, or kind of has that like arrogant a little bit vibe. But he is a nice enough guy, and that's probably just my own bias, my own prejudice, if you can call it that. But I think I'm projecting a little bit. But he's a very nice guy, and admittedly, I think I get that bias because the first time we ever played, I think he got kind of upset, which it happens. I got upset tonight at one point, and we'll get to that. But every other time I've ever played him, he's a very, very kind person, very patient, and just like a good dude. So, I try not to hold, that idea of that first game in my head. But game 1, he was playing the black-white flicker bounce deck. And game 1 he beat me. He flickered a Solitude and ephemerated it, and was able to get rid of my Monastery, Swift Spear, and Goblin Guide, and then he got the lifelink damage, and the game just very quickly got away from me, so that was kind of no fun. But then games 2 and 3, I think he just didn't draw. Game 2, I can't really remember. I think I just drew well and beat him. And then game 3, I think he just didn't draw well. He drew 4 copies of kind of a meh card. He drew 4 copies of that white orchid lion thing. And one of them didn't even really target one of my lands, so it was kind of meh. They are blockers. But in the end, they didn't end up mattering, and he drew too many of those and not any of his important cards. So I beat him. And then my last matchup was, so I'm 2-0, and I'm going into the last match, and it's against Grinding Station Breach or whatever, which I think I have a pretty good matchup against. And this is where my night kind of got ruined, which is why I'm kind of upset. But so we approach each other, and I say, hey, I'm fine with splitting. I'm fine with playing. The most important thing to me is that we play Magic. And the conversation's kind of awkward, so we're just kind of like, it's kind of a jumbled conversation, but from what I gathered, he wanted to split and go home. And the thing is, he said he wanted to go home, and I wanted to just play Magic. So I was under the impression from that conversation that if I was making him stay to play Magic, we were going to play it out. So we play one game, and I beat him. And then after, he picks his cards up, and he says that he's going to go home. He has his wife and, his daughter at home. And he was like, oh, I'll just enter the zeros and whatever. And at that point, it became very clear that I was not on the same page. So, there was a whole kind of back and forth, oh, I thought it was clear and blah, blah, blah. And then, exactly how you'd expect. I tried to be polite, but I was clearly very upset. I was under the impression that because, based on our conversation, I was making him stay, we would play it out. So when he said he was picking up his cards, I thought he was just forfeiting to go home. And yeah, no, and he was under the impression that we were just splitting and playing. I really am under the impression that I think he was gonna play it out, decided he didn't want to, and, you know, I think the whole game he was just trying to figure out how he was gonna get out of that game and make this awkward scene. I really think he cheated me out of it. So I'm really upset about that because logically speaking, I don't know how you would decide to stay and play if he wanted to go home, like bar none, if he wanted to go home in any situation like that. And I'm never doing this again. I'm always gonna say that we're just gonna play it out. Like, even if I want to split and go home, like, unless it's like the guy I played, unless it's like one of my friends there, people I know and trust. Like, if it's somebody new, I am always, even if I want to split and go home, I'm always just gonna ask to play it out because this was ridiculous. Like, logically speaking, why would I ever decide to let us stay and play and not play for it? Like, why would we sit down, play one? Why would I split? Especially, like, if the most important thing to me is that we play, why would you leave after one game? Right? Like, I want to play the games. So, like, if he has to stay, logically, we would just then play for it. So I think he just, like, leveraged the fact that we didn't make it perfectly clear so that when he picked up his stuff to go leave, that awkwardness would ensue. And, like, at the end of the day, I should have just, like, fought for myself. But, you know, like, it is, at the end of the day, like, I think the difference is, like, $5, or I think it's, like, you get 30 or 35 if you win 3-0, and then, like, 25, so it's like $10. It's either 30 or 35, and then 25 for splitting, or something like that, so it's like $10, but I've been getting dumped on recently playing Magic. Like, I played a Pauper weekend, and I'm gonna talk about this in a second. I played a Pauper weekend, and I won. My goal was to win a single game, not even a match, a single game, and I did, and I was really happy, but it does suck to lose. I played 4 matches, and I won 1 game, so it sucks to lose that much, and, like, I've been losing a bunch playing my living end deck. So when I decided to play Burn, it's because I like playing Burn. I win when I play Burn, and I really wanted to win. So, like, and I beat him handedly in the first game, and then he scoops up his cards. Like, to me, in my heart, I feel like I 3-0'd, and that's what I'm just gonna say. I mean, technically I did because he conceded. So, but, like, I wanted to win, and I needed to. I just needed to build my confidence back up. I needed to just, like, win again, and I did. And I don't know, that really just kind of put a damper on everything. But regardless, I've learned my lesson. I'm literally never going to split unless it's somebody I know and trust. And I'm never ever gonna feel bad if somebody wants to go home. Too bad. I don't give a fuck about your poor planning. Or that, like, yeah, you have a wife and kid at home. Like, then don't come. Like, if you don't have time to commit to it, don't come. Like, if you don't have time to dedicate to the hobby, if you're going to create situations like this, don't show up, don't play. Or, like, you know, it's 9:30 at night, your wife and kid, like you said, oh, before they go to, like, I don't know. You know, like, I am childless, I am wifeless, so, like, who am I to complain? But, like, it doesn't matter what your excuse is. Like, I think that's a really poor excuse. And I feel like you really cheated me out of that win, which sucks. You know, I'm not trying to say, like, oh, don't have a wife and kid. Like, go see your family, whatever. But, like, you shouldn't create a situation like that. That's awkward for me to, like, and awkward for yourself. Like, you know, like, that just sucks for both of us. Now we're both in this situation, but now, you know, last week I was a sore loser. Now I'm being a sore winner. But again, he's a nice enough guy. He you know, I don't get maybe he wasn't trying to cheat me out of it. Maybe it was just a big misunderstanding. But like, I've gone through it in the whole drive home. I was thinking about it. Like, why would I ever agree to sit down and play not a full match and then split? Like, logically, that makes no sense. That's like, nothing else indicated to me that he really was trying to cheat me out of this win other than that. Like, why would I agree to sit down and, like, if we were just gonna play one, it makes no sense for him to scoop and leave. Why would he assume that that would be okay? The thing I said, the thing I clearly did state, regardless of whether or not I was clear about splitting, the one thing I said is, the most important thing to me is that we play Magic. That's the only thing that was very blatantly obvious, like, clear. Everything else, I can kind of give him the benefit of the doubt about miscommunication, because, like, it wasn't very clear if I said we were splitting, or it wasn't very clear between the two of us if we were splitting or staying and playing. I will give him that olive branch. But the one thing I did say very clearly is the most important thing to me is that we play. So, logically speaking, if at the end of the conversation it was very clear that he wanted to go home, but I wanted to play, to me, that made it very clear that we were going to play it out. And I guess, in his mind, I guess for some reason he thought that I was fine splitting at that point, which doesn't make sense to me. I said, yes, I'm fine splitting as long as we play a full match. I didn't, and that's the thing, I didn't say that. I said, I'm fine splitting, I'm fine playing. The most important thing to me is that we play. So, like, I don't know how, in any universe, what actually ended up happening was, in his mind, like what I wanted. Playing one game and him conceding and us splitting in no universe was in my wheelhouse of like what I expected to happen. So, you know, that's the only thing, is that makes no sense. It's only beneficial to him. Like, I wanted to play Magic, so like, I don't know, it seems clear in my head that, like, if I was making him stay, we are playing this out. So, like, when he folded up his cards, like, that immediately to me, it was just like, okay, he's forfeiting, conceding, like, the whole match, and that's fine, like, whatever, but, like, I get the win, and that, so, I don't know, it all points to him just kind of cheating me out of the win, essentially. Like, he wanted to go home, and then just cheating me out of that $10. Yeah, I don't know, I'm just, I think I came off a little bit upset talking about, him and his family and just, like, staying home, whatever. I'm just upset, and I shouldn't be this upset. It's just a game. It is just $10. But I don't know. That was just upsetting to me. But I've learned my lesson. I am, again, literally never offering to split unless I know and trust the person ever again. And that's it. That's it. I will not be ever doing that in the future, because it just creates scenarios like that. So, if anything, I will take that away as the learning lesson from tonight. And then, as you heard at the beginning of the video, I will be playing on MTGO soon, so you can have gameplay videos. But the deck, or the format that I'll be playing, is Pauper. And I really, so I went to last Tuesday, for the Modern night that my local game store has. One of the players there is a really cool guy that I like a lot, and he got me interested in playing Pauper. So he gave me some resources to different content creators who play Pauper, and he told me to check them out. And then he gave me 2 or 3 specific lists that he had that were from a content creator, and he said, if I went, I could borrow one of them. Because every month, it's only a monthly event. They have a Pauper event at my local game store. So I looked at a couple videos, and I decided on one that I thought was particularly cool. And I went and I played. He lent me the deck, and I played. And the deck is, I'm starting to build it, it's not done yet, is Cycle Storm. So Cycle Storm is really, really cool and interesting. It is definitely the most heavily involved deck that I play now, which is interesting because it's in Pauper. But essentially what you do is you utilize cards like you utilize Songs of the Damned in conjunction with cards like Dark Ritual and Cabal Ritual. I don't have, again, this is a deck in progress, I don't have it finished yet. But you use Songs of the Damned, which is 1 black mana, and it adds a black mana to your mana pool for every creature card in your graveyard. And you utilize this card with a bunch of cycling cards to fill up your graveyard with creatures. So Street Wraith that you can cycle for free, essentially, and then a bunch of 1 mana cyclers, Drannith Stinger, Drannith Healer. You generate a ton of mana with Songs of the Damned, and then you use a card called Reaping the Grave. You also utilize cards like Dark Ritual to create mana, and Cabal Ritual to create mana. Cabal Ritual I don't have any copies of, but Dark Ritual, obviously the 1 mana, create 3 black mana. So you use those to kind of create a storm count, and then you utilize Reaping the Graves, which is 3 mana. I don't have a copy of it yet. It's 3 mana with Storm, and it's return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So if you have 6 or 7 Storm, you can take 7 of your cyclers, put them back into your hand. Basically what you want to do is generate as much mana as you can with Songs of the Damned, Cabal Ritual, and Dark Ritual, and generate a bunch of Storm, cycle a bunch of creatures into your graveyard, play Reaping the Graves to put those cards back into your hand, and then eventually, using things like Lotus Petal and Deadly Dispute, you can generate other color mana. So you can generate a couple red, play a few Drannith Stingers, and then you just keep basically cycling and churning and generating mana, returning cards to your hand, and you just ping your opponent to death with Drannith Stingers. So, for those of you who don't know, Drannith Stinger, 1 in a red, cycles for 1. Anytime you cycle another card, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So with your big mana with Songs of the Damned, with the ability to generate a lot of mana, your big mana, with the ability to generate a lot of mana, you can essentially just kind of cycle the cards into your graveyard, out of your graveyard, into your graveyard, out of your graveyard, and ping your opponent to death. And again, I wanted to get 1 single win with 1 single game win, not even a match win, 1 single game win. Because that's the thing, this deck is probably the most complicated deck that I have, not that I have, because I don't have it yet, but it's the most complicated deck that I have played in paper. The only next most complicated thing would probably be I played Mono Black Coffers, which generates a lot of mana, but the only thing you have to keep track of is the mana pool. This you have to get track of the mana pool and the storm count, and also you have to pay attention to what your draws are and stuff to make sure that you're finding what you need to actually go off and do the combo. But I really, really like it, and it's kind of funny that Pauper is the format where I play my most complicated deck. But yeah, the deck is really, really cool, and I really, really like it. Once I get more reps in with it, I am definitely, sometime this week or this weekend. Well, can't be this weekend, I'm busy this weekend, but sometime this week or maybe next week, I will hopefully have a gameplay video on MTGO of me playing, because I have this deck on MTGO. So when I make MTGO videos, it'll probably be Pauper, it'll probably be Cycle Storm, and other decks I have. I think I just built Mono Blue Terror too, so I have 2 decks I can play. So you can I can play those if anybody wants to see me play those decks. But that is Pauper and Cycle Storm, and that's just kind of my update there. I am also happy to like play Burn on MTGO and stuff like that. Now that I have the rent list, I'm very open to playing decks on MTGO for gameplay and stuff like that. So somebody asked for that, and I can tell you, it is coming. I very much would like to get some gameplay because gameplay is fun and it's easy to kind of talk through plays and stuff, and I think vocalizing some of my thought process could also help me improve as a player. So yeah, I think I'm looking forward to recording some gameplay and getting a video together for you guys of that, specifically with Cycle Storm, because it's a really cool deck if nobody's ever seen. I guess I can talk about Pauper. So it was on Sunday, and again I won one game, but I played so many different decks. I met a lot of different people. There are a lot of different people that go and play Pauper as opposed to Modern, and they were all really so. One of my biggest concerns with this deck is it's really easy on MTGO to kind of keep track of everything. Obviously, because you have the storm count and you have the mana pool generated for you, so it's a lot easier to kind of line up decision making. And in paper, it's a lot harder, just because you got to do it all yourself. So I was really nervous that players would get upset with me because this deck, its turns take a long time to complete and to think through. So you kind of go in the tank for a bit, and then when you start taking actions, it can create a very long turn. So I was very concerned and kind of nervous that I'd be sitting at a table and people would get really upset. But literally every single person there was not only really kind and really patient, and every game I tried to start and be like, hey, this is my first time playing Pauper in paper. This is my first time playing this deck. I'm still learning, so please be patient with me. And everybody was super accommodating. And not only that, so it's actually really funny. My first game I played against a player who seemed really good, really well versed in Pauper, and he beat the shit out of me, but it was still a fun game. He was a very nice guy. The player sitting to my right, he seemed very, his game went to time. Our game played out pretty quickly because I just made a bunch of, sorry about that, Krieger leaned onto the keyboard and stopped recording, so I'm just going to move that. The guy to my right was, he just seemed a little uptight. His game ended up going to time, whereas our game ended up early, so we were just sitting talking, and then occasionally we would look over at their game. We had no game. We were at the farthest. We were against the wall on the left, and then to the right was another game going on, so it was the only game we could watch. And it seemed like the person to his right, or his left, was his friend, so they were kind of talking throughout the game, and the guy to my right seemed a little bit uptight, but nothing bad. It was just the game started to go to time, and then he just seemed very concerned about the time they were taking and stuff like that. Nothing major, but I got a vibe, but again, I'm not the greatest at reading people, so maybe he just said something that sounded a little tense to me, but really, he meant nothing by it. So, again, I didn't hold it against him, but I was very nervous about getting him as an opponent, because, and again, this is probably my own insecurity. This is probably my own fear of being matched with somebody who is impatient. I probably just heard something very casual that he said that I read, insecurely, or not insecurely, but it was my own fear manifesting, and creating a bias on something he said in passing. But again, so it's not his fault. But he ended up being my third or fourth opponent, and he ended up being super cool. So most people, everyone was like, "Oh, that deck is really cool," blah blah blah, and he was ecstatic when we played against each other. He was so thrilled. He was like, "I love that deck," and and he was like, don't worry about taking long turns. Like, there's nothing that I love more than seeing that deck do its thing, because it's super cool. And I was like, I don't know. He really pumped my, well, I'll say this and then explain it in case it needs mansplaining, but pumped my tires. It's just like a phrase. He essentially, it's like he was my hype man. You know, like he really pumped me up and made me feel like great about playing the deck and stuff. So it's like, you know, I think it was a good lesson for me, because it's like I got like a one instance like vibe check that like he might be kind of like an uptight, you know, like kind of like a, you know, you just meet one of those. I hate saying uptight because it feels worse than like the vibe. The vibe I got, it was just like he was kind of like an intense person. Maybe is the best way to say it. Like I got the vibe that he was like an intense person. And then we sit down to play, and like we just had a blast. Like he was a nice dude. I thought he was like funny. He was kind. And he like hyped me up. Like, you ever meet people where it's like, you know, they make you feel good. Like they just, you know, it was a fun time. He was a nice dude. And yeah, like when people make you happy with the things that they say, it just makes you feel good, right? Like, so yeah, it was like super positive. And he was the only person. So our game 1, I beat him, and then in games 2 and 3, he was playing like mono white. And he had like dust to dust, and he dust to dusted my lands in both of games 2 and 3, which set me back far enough where he was able to beat me with white weenies. Or white weenies, or I don't know what, like white, I guess it is just like white weenies, right? Because it's like Thraben Inspector, and then like Thraben Inspector 2.0, like the other, well, not 2. It's like, you know, 1.0, or Thraben Inspector 2, Thraben 2 Inspector, whatever. The other Thraben Inspector that's not Thraben Inspector. But it's that deck. It's like the mono white plays that. It plays that captain that like looks at the top 3 and finds another creature or whatever. There's some flyer, but he was playing that. I don't know if it's called mono white weenies, or if it's called something else, but that's the deck he was on, and he beat me with because of the dust to dust, which again I wasn't upset about, because like he had pumped me up so much. I was like so thrilled to have somebody like excited to see me playing the deck. But yeah, like almost everybody like had compliments about the deck itself. Nobody else, I don't think anybody else was playing it, but everybody like liked it, which feels good. I don't know, when maybe it's just because like I play Burn and like people hate that, and I play Living End and people hate that. So like when I play a deck and people are like, I love that deck is so sweet, that deck is so cool. When that happens, like I feel like awesome, because like most of the time I go to the table and people are like, oh, you're playing Burn, or like, oh, you're playing Living End, and like nobody's ever happy, and then you play something that people like, and it just feels great. So yeah, that was awesome. So yeah, I'm thrilled that I have a deck that people like, because I don't know, it's like it's so much better and more positive to like, I don't know. A lot of the things that I don't like about Magic is the attitudes that people can have towards like the game. And like the worst thing is like when you sit down and people, and I'm guilty of it too. I'm a hypocrite. Like I've judged people for the deck that they play or choose to play, and I've said, you know, I probably talk shit about decks that people play. And hopefully I'll get better at. Hopefully, you know, now that now that I feel this, now that like I've had this experience, hopefully I can kind of like learn from it, and like when I sit down to play with people, I can be at the very least not, you know, I can be more positive and hopefully try to make them feel the same way that he made me feel. And like tonight, like my second opponent was playing the Ketramos, black white blink deck, and I tried to like, you know, it was only one sentence, but I said, or no, I said a few things to compliment his deck, and it's because I was like remembering how that other guy made me feel when I was playing Cycle Storm. So I was like, oh, Overlord of the Belmerk, like I love that card card's so cool. And then like just like saying like, oh, I've never played against this matchup before, like I like that deck a lot, it looks really cool. And then he mentioned how he got like Overlord of the Belmerk and Ketramos right when they came out, so they were super cheap, and I was like, oh, that's sick. Like you like those cards are appreciated like a ton. Like I tried to be like really positive, and it seemed to have worked because like again that opponent was an opponent who I have like previous, I don't want to say negative experience with, but I got, again, it's all just a vibe, and a lot of it is just me projecting on other people, like my own insecurities and fears, but I got a vibe that he was, like, upset once, and that's just kind of, like, lingered with me, so, like, it's probably not that at all, but, like, to have an opponent that I had, like, negative vibes with before, and then to, like, get this positivity, like, I could tell he was, like, a lot more positive, like, I don't know if it's because of the things I was saying, or again, if it's just like he was never just like upset or whatever, whatever. But I don't know. I don't know. Positivity breeds positivity, and in the world that we live in today, with all the crazy shit that's going on, like we really could use more positivity. So yeah, I learned a lot on that. In that one day, in that one match, where I played Cycle Storm against that white weenie opponent. So yeah, if there's anything I could say right now, it's that I'm gonna try to be more positive, and I'm gonna try to have a better attitude when it comes to playing. And I know that this is kind of hypocritical because like I'm coming off of that little disagreement, but like I've learned a lesson there too. Make sure that I communicate extremely clearly with my opponents, and again, like I think I'm just moving forward. Unless I know the person, I don't think I'm going to offer to split anymore. And if I am in a situation where I am like going to offer to split, I'm going to be very clear that we are either splitting and going home, or we are playing. I'm never going to split and stay, I don't think. Again, unless it's like one of the handful of people there that I know and trust. So yeah, I don't know. I've learned a lesson there. I've learned about being very clear, making sure things are very clear when it comes to that. And then I also learned about, not learned, but I'm going to try to be more, I did learn, but I'm going to be more positive, or try to be more positive, and bring a better attitude as best I can. It'll be tough, especially after what happened tonight, but, at the end of the day, it's $10. It's not the end of the world. I still made money tonight. I'm still, in the black. I did well enough, so, like, I got store credit back. So it's not the end of the world. That guy gets to go home and see his wife and kids, and that's great. Or kid. I think he said he had a daughter. And that's great, good for him. He got what he wanted, and he got some cash back out of it, so, like, he goes home happy. I guess I kind of go home happy. I could be happier, but, like, at the end of the day, it's $10, and, he gets to be with his family, so how could I be upset at that? So yeah, I'm going to try to stay positive about this. I'm going to try to stay positive about Magic and just my attitude in general. I loved Pauper, and I'm very much looking forward to playing more. So, yeah, I just wanted to say that, because I know I've been covering a lot, or most of what I play is modern, so a lot of the decks and stuff that I show off are modern. But I am definitely, like, kind of in on Pauper. Pauper is awesome. Pauper is sick. So I think in paper, I'm going to build this, and I'm going to finish Cycle Storm, and then I'm going to build Mono Blue Terror. And those are also what I have on MTGO, and those are going to be the decks that I'm going to want to try to play. Mono Blue Terror, like, I play a lot of combo with this and Living End, and then Burn, and then I think, like, Mono Blue Terror would be, like, a good deck to, like, I don't know, Mono Blue Terror feels like a simple, like, as far as, like, a tempo deck goes, it seems like an easier, like, the lines are a little bit easier, so I don't really have to think too much. But we'll see. I played a little bit of Murktide, but I think this is going to be different than Murktide, but I don't know. But I'm excited. I am very excited. We are also at, like, I think we're still at, like, 498 subscribers, so we're closing in on, 500, which I'm super, super thrilled about. And, subscribing and watching. Krieger here very much appreciates your support, and so do I. And if you told me like 6 months ago that I would be this excited about playing Magic, I would have called you a liar. I'm so surprised at my bounce back and how excited I am to play and be involved in Magic the Gathering. It still hurts the wallet, but I do my best, and I think before the end of 2025, I'd like to take. If you can hear some whistling, it's Krieger's nose. I think I gotta get him to a vet. He's been sneezing a lot lately. I just want to make sure nothing's wrong with him. It could just be allergies. He had some gunkies in his eyes earlier. Like in the corners of their eyes, they can get like a little bit of gunk, and he had a little bit more than usual. And he's been sneezing a lot lately. I'm hoping it's just allergies, but I'm gonna call my vet and see what they say. But his sneezing has gotten a little bit better. It was really bad for like a couple weeks. He was sneezing. Well, not a couple weeks, maybe like a week. He was sneezing a lot. Now his nose always whistles, though. He has a whistly nose. Oh, I love my cat so much. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. You can look forward to gameplay videos of Pauper and potentially Modern. But yeah, Pauper, definitely gameplay videos. In the next couple weeks, I'm hoping to get my first one out there. I just gotta find time. The big question I have is, am I just gonna do like tournament practice games and record those? Or do I want to go into a league and play an entire league? An entire league would take a lot of time. And I don't know if I would want to do a full league ASMR. So I might start a league and like do some ASMR and then finish it on my own. But let me know what you'd like to see. Or if you just want to see gameplay, doesn't matter what. Like I can just do tournament practice. And just kind of go from there. But he's getting sleepy, and so am I. It's getting late. But yeah, thank you all so much for supporting the channel. I really do appreciate it. As we close in on 500, which is such a great milestone. I'm very proud of the channel, and there's more to come, especially with Magic. So thank you all so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.